Welcome back. So, a good friend of mine asked me if I could do a video on resentment and regret. And I was going to say, why do I need to make a video? Why don't we just have a conversation? But he said he feels like this is a topic that a lot of people are probably struggling with, and he would love to hear my input. But he also thinks that it might be worthwhile to put it out there because there might be other people that might feel they can gain something from this. So I was thinking about it, and it's kind of interesting because he personally is going through his own struggles. Um, One has to do with being single again, dealing with different emotions. But at the same time, in my own life, I'm seeing other people with their own struggles. And so I wanted to see if I could hit a global solution for many different type of issues, not specifically just his. I have a friend that just got sick, a family member that passed away suddenly at a very young age, leaving a baby and a new wife. Um, so many things going on just in my small circle where people are just struggling. And what's interesting is, and I try not to do this, I try to keep eye contact with the camera, but I want to read today's thought from Ethics. So Avtalion, who again was this great sage who lived a long time ago, he gave the following piece of advice. And I'm going to read this in English. He said, "Scholars, be cautious with your words, lest you incur the penalty of exile, and you will be banished to a place of evil waters, and drink from them will your disciples who follow after you, and they will die, and consequently the name of heaven will be desecrated." So this seemed like a very fancy way of saying something very simple. Be very careful with your words because you might be misunderstood, and your students will learn the wrong path, and then you're going to desecrate the name of God. They're going to make decisions that their students will be misguided with. Why don't we say it simply? Why do we say, be careful that you'll take them to these waters that they're going to drink from? And I was thinking that it's interesting. I think it applies specifically to this idea of regret and resentment. How do we deal with regret and resentment? So, first of all, I just want to clarify, regret and resentment is two different things. First, we're going to explain what they are. And second of all, we're going to try to solve how to deal with them. Regret is when you're living in a state of feeling like you wish you did things differently. Resentment is when you have animosity or, well, resentment. You have this ill feeling towards something or someone. It could happen at the same time. You can resent something you didn't do that you regret not doing, but it could also be two totally separate, independent things. The way to deal with regret is to realize that you live in the moment. And I talk to myself, as I always say, when somebody regrets something and they live in a state of regret, you can regret doing something as a passive feeling the same way you can feel sadly about something but not get lost in it to a point where your emotion controls you, which is a terrible thing. Which is why I brought up this extreme example of a death in the family. It is, of course, okay to experience your feelings, but you should not let your feelings control you, because eventually you're going to have to get back to normal, and it's going to be a new normal. And that's how life seems to be, new normals from time to time. The way to get over regret is to realize that you're living in the past And now you have an opportunity within your life where you're at now to continue moving forward in a new way. If you live in a state of regret, you're living in the past, and you are trying to change something that is so far behind, it's over. Now, this could get tricky. Let's say, for example, somebody can't get over their ex, so they're hopeful. So now you have to start being logical about emotions. Are you being hopeful realistically? Is there a possibility that she or he will get back together with you? And so on. It gets really complicated. And of course, please feel free to comment, ask questions. I'd love to get into a dialogue about this. But the general concept of regret is that a person is living in the past, and they have to realize that for whatever reason, whether it was a poor choice or something that happened to them or a manipulation, it's the past. And as difficult as this is, and I'm not trying to sound insensitive, the best way to move forward is to figure out your present. Again, the problem with living with regret is that it's taking up so much space rent-free in your mind that it's hard to focus on a new beginning, especially when it's easier to feel badly and pout than to make yourself strong and move forward without a safety net. Resentment is a little different. Resentment is when you have an issue with someone or something. This is where God comes in. If you have resentment, if you resent that that person's treating you a certain way, or that that person made it and is a multimillionaire, although you tried harder, or you're smarter, or a mixture of both and other things, now you have an issue with God, because God runs the world. He's behind the scenes. And if a person does something lousy to you, that person is the person that did something lousy, and it's not right. And you have the right to have issue with that person. But you have to realize that when something happens to you, it's not haphazard. It was meant to happen. And this is a very, very big issue in the world at large, is that people get so caught up with things that other people did to them or situations that they find themselves in, that they forget that God orchestrated this. And again, I'm speaking to myself. I feel like a hypocrite. I know I feel in all these areas, but I'm trying. In order to get over resentment, a person has to work on their relationship with God. Person kicks you in the leg. God wanted you to get kicked in the leg for some purpose. Who knows what the purpose is? A wake-up call to get your attention off of something else. You'll never know what you never know. Life is all about going down paths. And every time you go down a path, you don't know what the other path would have been. Simple example. My parents aren't alive. And I always say, I wish my mother was alive for this or for that. But if she was alive, my whole experience, my whole life from that point till here would have been different. So again, I know life is very tough, very, very tough, but it's all in your frame of mind. Another friend I was talking to who has challenges in life also. And we were discussing this concept that life is tough, but it's all about your mindset. And if you can get your mindset right, nobody can mess with it. Regret, you can try to get over regret by realizing that regret is the past. And resentment, the way to get over resentment is to realize that, yes, you can feel ill towards this person, but God is the one that runs the world, and there's a purpose. And when you have this search for your purpose, even in small things, it empowers you. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm not just a victim. I'm not just some guy like, why did this person do this to me? Why did this horrible thing happen to me? But what can I learn from it? What did God want? somebody just robbed you for a fortune of money. Maybe God wants you to figure out how to be able to handle that, or to live with less money for a period. He wants us all to be billionaires. It's just a question of us being able to handle it. So I really hope that this was helpful for you guys. And if you want to discuss any topic, please comment and I'll try to get around to it. I'll try to apply it to the saying of the day. But I think it was very apropos because, again, this man could have just said, be careful with your words so that your students are careful, so that we have a continuation where things are done the right way. But he used this fancy wording of be careful with the waters you take someone to, because this gets like a little bit trickier and complicated. And that's life. Life is very tricky. Person could do everything right except this one thing and can mess up more than another person who's just stumbling all the time. So I wish you all blessings and success, and that things go easy for you. And if you have challenges, remember, try to live in the moment and try to build your relationship with God. You are the talker. God is the listener. He's listening. Have a great one.